A very warm welcome on this first Sunday of 2021, and a safe, healthy, and happy New Year to you all. We're truly delighted that you're spending this special Sunday morning with us. And if this is your first visit with the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of San Miguel de Allende, we look forward to getting to know you and seeing you at future services. I'm Jurgen Ahlers, and I'll be your service leader for today. Whether you're a first-time visitor or a regular, we hope that you will enjoy the multifaceted caliber that our services are known for. Excellent and varied music, as you've just experienced, stimulating messages, and the opportunity of reconnecting with or starting new friendships. Our fellowship is indeed diverse. We're comprised of people from various religious traditions or none. We embrace diversity of race, culture, gender identity, or sexual orientation. We encourage you to bring your inquisitive minds and your expansive heart in fellowship, deeper reflection, and yes, great music. And now over to Bonney and our COVID-19 task force.
Good morning. I'm Bonney McDowell, a member of the Fellowship's Board and of our COVID-19 task force. I add my welcome to all of you joining us today, wherever you are. We invite you to look in today's order of service for announcements of activities and membership information. The same information appears in our weekly newsletter, along with interesting articles about our busy fellowship. If you're not already on our mailing list, please send a note to Denise at the address in the chat box. You may also be interested in joining our Google listserv or our YouTube channel, which has videos of our services that you can share with friends and family. At our newly redesigned website, you may sign on to our Zoom services, see the order of service, donate to our fellowship, or link to the YouTube channel. We invite you to join our breakout discussions right after the service, a great place to reflect on today's message with old and new friends. Just stay connected after the postlude music ends, and you'll be randomly assigned to a room. If only one or two people show up in your room, sit tight for a moment, and you'll be moved to a larger group. Near the end of the service, we'll post a question to kick off your discussion. If you're a new visitor today, we invite you to delay accepting your breakout room assignment so our minister and membership team can chat with you for a few minutes in the main room. And next, a few thoughts from the fellowship's COVID-19 task force. We're a group of medical professionals and care team members with expertise we hope will be helpful for you during this pandemic. We're all looking forward to a happier new year, and we hope that vaccines will bring some protection. We don't know yet how well or how soon that will take effect, so we all have to maintain our best precautions for now. We are concerned about the new COVID variant, which is more contagious, easier to catch. Almost everyone has relaxed their precautions over time, and we hope the awareness of this new variant will inspire all of us to recommit to safety, stay home whenever possible, avoid indoor gatherings, and wear the best masks you can get. It's not too late to make some New Year's resolutions about this. May I make a few suggestions? Get your kit of supplies for care at home ready. Review the home care manual again. Check in with friends and neighbors you would want to call if you got sick. Remind your household help to stay home if they're ill and that you'll pay them. You know, as a group, we have done a great job protecting ourselves and others so far. How we continue to care for ourselves now is our opportunity to demonstrate our deep respect and concern for the interdependent web of all life. Happy New Year, my friends, and stay safe. And now back to Tom for the fellowship's covenant.
Good morning. I'm the Reverend Tom Rosiello, the minister of this fellowship. It's my privilege to be with you again this morning and to be participating in today's service. As we begin the new year, we conclude our 6-Sunday series on the season of light. During these last weeks, we have celebrated and explored Diwali, Advent, Hanukkah, Solstice, Christmas, Kwanzaa, and today will be Epiphany, more commonly known here in Mexico as Three Kings Day. It's most appropriate that these holidays lead us into the new year, although they certainly have different forms of celebration and teach different things. Common to all of them are the ideas of hope for the future and the articulation of guiding principles and values for our lives. In each, there is not only stories from the past, some very ancient and some quite recent, but in each is also a celebration of new beginnings, new and better times to come. In each, there is an invitation to us to see more clearly both the world around us and the world within us, and to live more fully, more justly, with more kindness and love. What better message could we find with which to begin a new year? Especially this year, a year that follows one where spirits have been low, hopes diminished, and fear and isolation perhaps the norm. We need a new and better year, and to get there, we embrace the light of all the holidays and holy days of this season, and the light we kindle here in our community every single week. Perhaps we could say that this season of light prepares us to embark on a new year. As we light our chalice, the symbol of our Unitarian Universalist faith and the values and principles that we offer to the world as our light, I invite you to join in the chalice lighting words, which will appear on your screen after I light the chalice. Candles, lamps, fire, and stars, these are the symbols of this season. Candles and lamps to mark our days of celebration and dispel the darkness. Fire to drive away the winter chill and warm hearth and home. Stars to fill us with wonder and guide us on our sacred journey. I now invite you to sing what is surely the most famous of the Epiphany carols, We Three Kings. The words will appear on your screen in just a moment.
Afar, field and fountain, moor and mountain, following yonder star. The star, born a king on Bethlehem's plain, gold I bring to crown him again, king forever, ceasing never over us all to reign. Oh, star of wonder, star of night, star with royal beauty bright, westward leading, still proceeding, guide us to thy perfect light. Frankincense to offer have I, Incense songs a deity nigh, prayer and praising, all men raising, worship him, God most high. Oh, star of wonder, star of night, star with royal beauty bright, westward leading, still proceeding, guide us to thy perfect light. Thy perfect light. Myrrh is mine, its bitter perfume breathes the life of gathering gloom. Sorrowing, sighing, bleeding, dying, sealed in the stone cold tomb. Glorious now, behold him arise, King and God in sacrifice. Alleluia, alleluia, earth to heaven replies. Oh, star of wonder, star of night, star with royal beauty bright, westward leading, still proceeding, guide us to thy perfect light. 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 Thy perfect light.
Good morning from San Miguel de Allende. Please join us in reading our spoken covenant, which should appear on your screen momentarily. We respect the interdependent web of life and work for a just and peaceful world. We encourage the search for truth and meaning, strive for compassion in our relationships, and seek values that will benefit our lives and the lives of others. This is our covenant.
We now enter into a very sacred time in our service, a time when members and friends share significant joys, sorrows, and concerns with their community. If you have a joy, sorrow, and concern that you'd like me to share in a future service, please do email it to me. If you have one that you've not submitted this week but wish to share now, you may type it into the chat. This first candle is lit by Diana Akesian, and she lights it with gratitude for Carmen Danzel. And she writes, I've known Carmen for the past 20 years, and during that time, she has been on a one-person mission to aid the poorest folks in San Miguel, especially women and children. Since the advent of the COVID pandemic, and with the assistance and financial help of many generous folks and Feed the Hungry, she has been providing food, warm clothing, blankets, and much needed supplies to the most impoverished colonias outlying San Miguel. And our second candle is a sorrow that comes also through Diana, but from Carmen herself. Sadly, in one of the very poor ranches near Cieneguita, where Carmen was trying to help a family, a young boy committed suicide on Christmas Day. Carmen writes, he didn't have a chance considering how his family lived. Lots of alcohol and drugs, prostitution, no school. Still I tried. I took him toys and shoes, gave him rides in my car as we gave out presents, and even went to the welfare office to see if they could maybe place him in the Mexiquito Home for Boys. They did nothing. We light this candle for this child and all children the system fails, especially at this time of the Three Kings celebration. Our third candle is one of remembrance. As most of you know, Lydia Jane Failing passed away this past week. She did so peacefully and with grace at home. The progress of her terminal illness took her faster than most of us expected. But more than most, Lydia Jane was spiritually and emotionally prepared for her death. She had served our fellowship well in many ways, including being chair of the care team. She was a sister in our Mis Hermanas group, and they pulled together in an incredible way to support her in her final days and are still working on handling her affairs. Lydia Jane was blessed with true community through this fellowship. Nothing is set yet, but we'll likely have some sort of memorial event next summer. Malcolm and I would like to light a personal candle honoring the life of his aunt, Carol Halliday, who passed away this week at the age of 93 in her sleep. She was a very well-known educator of the blind, particularly those with additional disabilities besides blindness. She spent her adult life doing this work in Switzerland, where she lived with her life partner, Augie. She welcomed Malcolm and me to Zurich so many times, and the two of them, both incredible teachers, guided us in exploring much of Switzerland. Malcolm had an upbeat conversation with her just a day or two before she passed. We'll miss her, but we have wonderful memories. We again light a candle for all those who've been lost to COVID, those who are now ill, and for the incredible caregivers and other essential workers who risk their lives and health in this difficult time. This candle comes from many of you and is one of hope for the new year. We light it with confidence that we know things will get better. We light it for all that we've learned about how to grow and maintain community, even in times of physical separation. And this final candle, for all those joys, sorrows, and concerns that have been typed into the chat, and for all those that remain unarticulated this morning. I invite you now to carry all these joys, sorrows, and concerns, and your own, into a time of meditation, guided by Damon Elliott singing his song, Let There Be Light.
Let there be light for the ones who lost their way. Let there be light, let it ease your pain. Let there be light on the darkest day. Let there be light so that we may see again. Let there be light if the Bible says it's so. Let there be light as above, so below. Let there be light so the world will know. Let there be light so that we may see again. Let there be light tonight. Let there be light tonight. Let there be light. Let there be light. there be light for the ones with the wounded mind. Let there be light for the ones we left behind. Let there be light. Somebody say amen. Let there be light so that we may see again. Let there be light tonight. Let there be light tonight. Let there be light. Let there be light. Let it shine on me. Let there be light tonight. Let there be light tonight. Let there be light. Let there be light. Let it shine on me.
As many of you know, this fellowship is devoted to supporting NGOs dedicated to serving the needs of the local Mexican community. Today, we are highlighting one of these, namely the Escuela de Educación Especial de San Miguel de Allende. As a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, last year was a truly challenging one for all school kids, including our deaf students at Escuela de Educación. I want to share with you a letter written by John Doherty, a friend of ours and president of the school. John writes, "Let me introduce you to Jacobo, one of our youngest students. He's a typical energetic and curious 6-year-old attending primary level classes and learning sign language for the very first time in his young life. Prior to the COVID-19 health challenge, his family brought him every day to the school from his home in a rural community, which is an hour away by bus. To get to school by 8 a.m., his single parent mom wakens Jacobo each morning at 6 o'clock. Not always an easy thing for a little kid. But his mother tells us that he loves to come to school. Jacobo is very fortunate because his family understands the importance of receiving an education and learning to sign, especially for a deaf child. At EEE, he will be continually learning Mexican Sign Language, participate in social activities, and most importantly, be taught a range of academic subjects. We know that he is a very smart little boy, as he keeps everyone around him on their toes and with smiles on their faces. He's a happy and a very smiley child. Like most children his age, he can also be mischievous, as well as very cuddly and affectionate. 2021 offers hope and bright future for Jacobo and of the other special children and young people we serve. We are blessed and grateful for the fellowship support and for the caring friendships of many of our members. Signed, John Doherty, President, Escuela de Educación Especial de SMA. If you value our Sunday services and want to continue supporting the work of the NGOs we fund, such as Escuela Especial, please donate generously. We pause here to let you connect to our donation link, which you will find in the chat box, or take a minute and go to our website, UUFSMA.org. You can use your debit card or credit card or PayPal to leave your contribution. After a 90-second silence, for which you will share your gifts, we will take you to the organ of the parroquia here in San Miguel, where Malcolm Halliday will perform a work written by the 20th century Mexican composer Miguel Bernal. The piece Arrio del Pastorcito, or Lullaby for a Little Shepherd, depicts the shepherds of the children of the Christmas story in their pastoral setting and playing their bagpipes as they follow the star to Bethlehem.
Do you have your favorite poems, the ones you go to and read time and time again? Maybe you even have them memorized. And each time you go to them, you discover something new. Their meaning changes based on where you are in your life. They are poems that help you to better understand yourself. They open doors to places you need to go. They open new windows of understanding. They cause you to think deeply and even act accordingly. They are guides to living. For me, there are several poems that fit into this category, and certainly Robert Frost's Choose Something Like a Star is one of them. I share it with you this morning in a beautiful choral setting by Randall Thompson. And because the words are so central, Diego has added them to the video so that you can read along as you listen. And finally, as we do that, incredible photos taken from the Hubble telescope will add an additional level of meaning. I now invite you to experience Choose Something Like a Star. That piece was so beautiful, it's almost difficult to speak after. So let's sing. You've probably all heard many times the term the Star of Truth. It has been a rich metaphor in our faith tradition for a long time. So I invite you now to join in singing the words of 19th century Unitarian minister Minot Savage, who explores that concept in this hymn. It's hymn 293, O Star of Truth, and the words will soon appear. I've been watching the night sky a lot lately. About 2 weeks ago, Malcolm and I went up on our roof terrace at midnight. We laid down on our exercise mats, our eyes adjusted to the dark, and in just a half hour, we saw 16 shooting stars. It was the Geminid meteor shower. My eyes followed each star across the sky, and I was drawn in by the mystery and the wonder and the beauty of the event. And like many of you, also this month, I witnessed the incredibly bright star appearing in the western sky an hour or so after sunset, which in fact is not one star, but two, and actually not stars, but two planets, Jupiter and Saturn, in alignment. And the result to our earthly eyes is this incredibly bright star beckoning to us. This double star is in fact often called the Star of Bethlehem, and astronomers looking for scientific explanations of what the Magi and the shepherds might have seen in the sky 2,000 years ago, what they were said to have followed on their journey to Bethlehem, they tell us that indeed it was likely, it was in fact, this alignment of planets. But my most powerful celestial experience this month has been witnessing the incredible star that appears an hour before sunrise in the eastern sky. I'm an early riser most of the time, and it's when I do my best writing and reflecting and thinking. So I've been starting my days, many of them this month, gazing at this incredible star in the east, watching it rise until it fades out with the rising sun. I've learned that it's Venus, and its appearance at this time of year is just due to the natural scientific movement of the planet in relation to Earth. Nothing unusual, nothing supernatural, totally predictable. But that's not what I feel when I look into the eastern sky. I feel something beckoning, My mind becomes set on that star, and as it flickers, it feels as if it's communicating to me, sharing some great secret, great mystery, and some great news. In my head, I begin to hear music, the gospel song, "There's a star in the east on Christmas morn, rise up shepherds and follow," and the one we sang at the beginning of the service, "O star of wonder, star of light, star with royal beauty bright, guide us with your perfect light." And of course, I hear the words of Robert Frost from that poem, "O star, the fairest one in sight, darkness is what brings out your light. Some mystery becomes the proud, but to be wholly taciturn in your reserve is not allowed. Say something to us we can learn by heart, and when alone repeat." One line after another of the poem seems to pop into my head. So why am I sharing this with you? Certainly not to suggest, as the ancients thought, that gods dragged shining objects across the floor of the heaven to entice humans to follow. Not to try and factually defend the biblical narrative of the three kings, but to explore with you how a star of some sort, a reliable, constant, guiding light, might indeed be a necessary guide on each of our journeys. Certainly today we have our GPS devices that guide us to our physical destinations. Perhaps they cause us to forget that for those travelers of old, the stars had always been important navigational devices. Indeed, there is a practical way to use the stars, to follow them if you will, in order to get where you're going. But there's always been a much more profound sense in which stars have been thought to have great significance and show us paths in our life. They're said to foretell great events and reveal great insights. You know, it's not just at the birth of Jesus, but also at the birth of Caesar and of the Buddha that a new and bright star was said to appear in the heavens. And when the Buddha finally attained enlightenment, the bright morning star was said to rise above him. And although I'm certainly not into reading and following horoscopes, those who practice astrology believe that from the stars we can read a direction for our own lives. It seems that through the ages, following stars both in a practical and scientific way, as well as in ways in which science puts very little credence, has been considered a method by which we can navigate life's journey. But you may say, we have our GPSs and all sorts of real navigational equipment, and we don't need the stars anymore. And those other things of which you speak, they're from a time of superstition. And well, of course, you're right. But nevertheless, I very much think we still need stars. Or, as Frost says, something like a star. Something to focus upon and to follow as a guide on life's journey. So this morning, I want to examine with you the question, where do we find the equivalent of the Epiphany star? I actually think it's a very important question for Unitarian Universalists to ponder. What is the star that guides us? What beam of light illuminates our path? In many religious traditions, people are told exactly what their star must be. They don't have to search the night sky for it. What they are to do is to follow pretty much a very specific path. In these traditions, everyone's star is the same, and the attraction of these faith traditions is perhaps due to the fact that many want their star to appear easily, and the path they are to follow be marked very clearly. In the liberal religious tradition, where we do not claim a single source of truth, a single teacher, or one and only one inspired text of wisdom, the question of what our star is can be a little more confusing. Perhaps there are times in our lives when we yearn for that easier route of being told what our star should be, rather than doing as Robert Frost tells us we must do, and that is choose something like a star. Choose our own star. This ability to choose your own star, this proclamation that we're not bound by one source of light, is really the joy and the hallmark of the free religious tradition, but it is also the great responsibility of those traditions. Sometimes, especially when life is good, I think we avoid the responsibility. I think we can misconstrue our freedom not to be bound to any one star as meaning that we can get along just fine without any star to follow. And I don't think we can. I believe we need to do the hard spiritual work of choosing something like a star to be our guide. One of the lines in Frost's poem has always jumped out at me. It's his asking the star, tell us what elements you blend. If that line isn't written for the exploring of Unitarian Universalist theology, I don't know what is. You know, sometimes we Unitarian Universalists get criticized for blending, picking and choosing, for taking guidance from various faith traditions and philosophy. I had a professor at Harvard who didn't think very highly of Unitarians, and he called us a salad bar religion. And of course, if you want your star just to be given to you, you'll probably agree with him. But when your spiritual task is to find your own unique star, you understand the value that embracing the guidance of various traditions can provide. Actually, this is one of the beauties that I hope you've discovered as we celebrated the diverse holidays composing this season of light. Your religion is not my religion, and your faith and my faith, and your star and my star are not the same. You know, a famous Indian guru was once asked, how many religions actually are there in the world? And he answered the question with another question. He asked, how many people are there in the world? And when told the number, he then replied, well, that's how many religions there are in the world. So if we each have our own religion, our own star, if you will, how do we find it? Our traditions, both Unitarian and Universalist, have taught for centuries the idea that we each possess within us a certain light that is there to show us the way. 400 years ago, John Fletcher wrote, the human being is his or her own star, and the soul that can render an honest and perfect person commands all light, all influence, all faith. Nothing to this person falls early or too late. The transcendentalists of our movement taught us a similar message, that there is an inner light that is constant and unwavering. It is the light of the things we know intuitively. Then we might say it is the basic guiding moral principles and values that are shining in us from our birth. They would tell us that we don't need 10 commandments written on stone tablets or even in sacred texts as our stars. For the knowledge of right and wrong is already written in us. And although it may not always be that we follow its guidance, it's always there. Emerson, as he developed his thoughts on self-reliance, expressed it this way. The little needle always knows the north. The little bird remembereth his note. And the wise seer within me never errs. I never taught it what it teaches me. I only follow when I act aright. So first, you look within for the star. But sometimes it is not easy to find and even more difficult to follow. Many of the messages we receive from our society make it difficult to do what Frost asks of us, to stay our minds on and be stayed by our own star. It's extraordinarily easy to lose sight of the star which shines within each of us. In a world which measures success and grants status based on a very distorted ethic, it's easy to be swayed by our own apparent success or failure, and as Frost wrote, by those who carry praise or blame too far. Our egos get in the way of staying on the path. Other things seem more important, and we are expert at rationalizing our departures from the path the star is directing us to take. I doubt there's anyone here who, at least for a time, has not experienced the light of their star growing dim. Maybe you followed an imposter star for a while, a false star of success or unhealthy ambition, of convenience instead of righteousness, of practicality instead of justice. I think we've all had this experience. It seems to me we need more than just the star within. The spiritual task of inward discovery needs to be informed and nurtured by things external. If you will, we need external stars too. It's sort of like that two-part star that we've been seeing in the western sky after sunset. The star is created for us by two stars, Jupiter and Saturn, coming together and making this really bright star that guides us. You know, Emerson, who I relied on earlier to suggest that our star was within each of us, also argued that we each need to hitch our wagon to a star. You know, the implication, I think, in that statement, as well as in Frost's poem, is that self-discovery is not in and of itself enough, that we have to make ourselves a part of something greater. Religion can be an external star. It reminds you again and again that you must hold on to and be guided by those beliefs that you claim as ultimate. Religion must help you articulate them, find them, apply them, practice them, live them. I believe that's true for all religions, and I don't hold ours out as one of greater truth or more light. But this faith, where you have to make choices, where the light can come from many elements in different places, really does have plenty in it to refuel your inner star. Shining down are those stars of truth, each of which becomes a beacon to us. As a liberal faith tradition, it's our job to focus on the beams of light and the pathways they illuminate, to raise them up, to reflect their light, and allow them to refuel our inner star. We must claim the things to which we as a community acknowledge as worthy of our deepest loyalty and commitment. We come together each week to do just that, to be reminded of the presence of the renewing light found here in our tradition and in the gathering of community. We can start with profound respect and belief in the interconnectedness of all things. We can believe it's based on a biblical faith that attributes it to God's common creation, or a scientific faith that proves it through DNA analysis. It doesn't matter. The path it illuminates is the same, that we must endeavor to be in right relationship with all people, all creatures, all things. We know through the teachings of so many traditions, or just from the experience of our own hearts, that love is the most powerful force in the world. The source of that love doesn't matter. This love knows no creed. Whether it's Christian love or Muslim love or humanist love, the same light shines, illuminating our path and refueling our inner star. We know that there's never enough love, and that love calls us to distribute it as light to others, even wastefully. Our experience tells us, I think, that probably the only good reason for us being here is certainly not to find out what we can take for ourselves, but in fact to learn what we can give. The power of giving fuels our light. As we walk in the light of love and giving and interconnectedness, we find the path leads us further to foster justice and equality for all. When we follow the light of our renewed star, we experience the gifts of life's goodness and joy, even in times of struggle and loss. And when we know there is more light yet to come into our lives, we know we don't know it all, that light will show us new paths, for revelation is not sealed. I like to think, at least metaphorically, that when each of us was born, a star rose, our own star, the one that can shed the true light on our own journey. It's a steadfast star. It can shine through doubt and fear, even being more visible at the darkest times in life. But still, it's not always easy to follow. It's not easy to trust sometimes, particularly when it conflicts with the path that much of society advocates we follow. It is at these times that the light of a liberal faith can help keep you steady on the course, can rekindle the light of your personal star. John Morgan once wrote, "In the end, it won't matter how much you have, but rather how much you've given. It won't matter how much you know, but rather how much you love. And it won't matter how much you profess to believe, but rather how deeply you live by the few enduring truths you claim as ultimate." Those truths are our star, or at least they are something like a star. So paraphrasing Robert Frost, when the mob is swayed to carry praise or blame too far, choose something like a star to stay your mind on and be stayed. It has been a joy for me, and I hope for you, to explore this season of light together. What we should take from these holidays, these celebrations, I think is this. What we are called to do is to see more clearly our lives and our world illuminated by the light that shines in these celebrations. But more than that, I believe we are called ourselves to be shining objects. We are called to reflect the light, to carry it, to shine it into dark places. In some ways, each of us is called to proclaim, even in the darkest of times, let there be light. So please join in doing that in song. The words are written by Canadian Francis Davis and set to music by Canadian composer Robert J.B. Fleming. It's hymn 142 in our hymnal, Let There Be Light.
Let
thank you for being with us today. After the service in our virtual coffee hour, I hope you will share with each other what you want to take away from these Season of Light celebrations. And if you are fairly new to us, as Bonney mentioned earlier, I and some of our hospitality folks would love to meet you and welcome you. So before going into a breakout room, just stay put in the main room and you'll come together with us. I hope you'll join us again next week for a service featuring our own member and author of several books, Frank Toms, who will bring us many interesting insights from his time in Russia. And now, as is our custom, we conclude our service by extinguishing our chalice. After all these celebrations of light, it often almost feels uncomfortable, perhaps even sad, to do so. But we remember that it's not the true light we are extinguishing, that we indeed do carry with us as our guide. That light we have the opportunity, again this week, to reflect into those dark places that are in so need of light. May peace be with you till we meet again. And fiat lux, let there be light.